Good Thursday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Janice Shortle. Happening right now, the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers is voting whether or not to walk off the job. Voting is expected to take 3 days, and teachers in Minneapolis could go on strike in early November. The Minneapolis Federation of Educators represents 4,300 teachers and support staff. The union covers 2 chapters and 3 contracts. Its president says this is the first time they're negotiating all of those contracts at the same time. Now, the school district said in a statement it's committed to finding and reaching an agreement, but it expects revenue deductions in the near future. The union argues the district needs to use the money it does have. 3 weeks into the government shutdown, and we are approaching a critical deadline, November 1st. That's when open enrollment for health insurance begins. Unless Congress acts to keep the Affordable Care Act subsidies in place, more than 90% of people in the ACA healthcare plans could see out-of-pocket premiums skyrocket next year. Local unions and Democratic lawmakers rallied at the state capitol to sound the alarm about the local impacts of these rising healthcare costs.
We've heard the Republican leadership in our state defend these Medicaid cuts, saying, oh, those are only going to keep off people who are not eligible. Well, that is simply not true. We have 140,000 Minnesotans who are going to lose their health coverage because of these Medicaid cuts. And now we have 62,000 additional Minnesotans who are going to lose their health care coverage because of these increases in premiums.
Democrats are pushing Republicans to pass extensions of the subsidies before they reopen the government. The Republicans are pushing to pass a temporary bill to keep the government funded at current levels and then negotiate the ACA subsidies.
These are their subsidies, and they set the date for their expiration. And now the Democrats want us to dig them out of a hole.
Although political reports, Republican leaders are quietly ramping up talks over a potential extension to key ACA subsidies before the end of the year. Well, right now, you know it, you're paying more out of pocket for almost every kind of insurance. This week, family-run insurance premiums hit a record, nearly $27,000 a year for coverage. That's according to KFF. They are the dominant healthcare research group in America. Most of that is paid by your workplace, but you still shell out about $7,000. At the same time, your homeowner's insurance is shooting sky high as well. Our state's Commerce Department says on average, your rates have gone up 17.5%. And it is homeowners insurance that had the attention of our lawmakers in a hearing at the Capitol this week. Danny Spiewak went to that hearing and shares how big this problem actually is.
May 2022 was a rough month for Minnesota. Several rounds of storms that spring brought tornadoes, hail, and heavy winds across the state, causing billions in damage and making 2022 the costliest year in state history.
And all I saw was my neighbor lady's pine tree go down. I thought, hey, this is real.
The increased frequency of billion-dollar storm damage events, both in Minnesota and nationally, plus rising labor and supply costs, have driven homeowner insurance rates through the roof. According to the Minnesota Realtors Association, the annual cost of insurance on a median home has increased by $1,200 over the past 6 years.
Premiums themselves have skyrocketed.
Teresa Ruiz with the home buying assistance group PRG testified about the scale of the problem on Wednesday in front of a legislative task force on homeowners insurance.
Many families are now seeing sudden jumps.
Ruiz works with many first-time home buyers in the Twin Cities as a program manager for her nonprofit.
First-time home buyers not being able to already afford what's on the market. High premiums are really hard with affordability, and in order to get them lower, they experience high deductibles.
The high cost of homeowners insurance has also impacted lower-income families who purchase homes through Habitat for Humanity.
Households are seeing their homeowners insurance just be revoked without any cause or any claim.
Habitat for Humanity Minnesota CEO Kristen Inciti called on the legislature to invest in the new Strengthen Minnesota Homes grant program, which lawmakers established in 2023 to help homeowners fortify their roofs and limit the costly storm damage that drives up insurance rates. 2 years later, though, the program still hasn't launched.
I think there's an opportunity there to really invest in that program.
This task force was created specifically in response to the issue of rising homeowner insurance rates across Minnesota. The group will develop recommendations to deliver to the legislature in February. At the Capitol, I'm Danny Spiewak, KARE 11 News.
And the task force will get those recommendations together in their 5 meetings that they have scheduled before they go back to that February open session date. Well, right now, a man charged with firebombing Fletcher's ice cream shop is in court. Fletcher's is on the city's northeast side near Hennepin and University. And police say Formosa Umar drove to the ice cream shop twice in a minivan, threw a Molotov cocktail through the window and left. According to the charging documents, the minivan was registered to Umar and police matched his photo to the surveillance video. When they arrested him, police say he had a gas can in the passenger seat of that car. They haven't shared a motive, but the owner believes it may have been targeted because of a pride flag hanging in front of the store. There's a new study in Minnesota that could soon unlock some of our understanding about forever chemicals, those dreaded PFAS that have seeped into our water supply and threaten our health. But the study isn't looking at our water, it's looking at our air. And as Kent Erdahl explains, it's tapping a specific part of a specific tree to figure it out.
The southeast Twin Cities suburbs have been ground zero for PFAS contamination for years.
I want a better understanding of what's happening in my community.
That's easier said than done with a forever chemical that's so elusive.
It's invisible.
But there seems to be a new path forward. And it only requires a short walk for Lindsay Albright.
Right here to the end of the tree branch.
She is part of a network of volunteers collecting pine needles for PFAS research. And she's just as surprised as anyone.
PFAS in the pine needles within my neighborhood? Like, who knew that it's just being passively collected every single day from the trees in the neighborhood park? Wow.
I know what you're thinking. Why pine needles? And scientist Summer Streets knows the answer.
Pine needles are really great little passive air samplers, if you will, because the outer layer of the needle itself has kind of a waxy coating that air pollutants really like to stick to.
She says the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has long known forever chemicals can go airborne in several ways, but tracking it is hard.
One of our big data gaps is PFAS in ambient air. And one of the reasons for that is it's just really logistically difficult and very expensive.
That's why pine needles are so promising. Not only are they found all over the state, the MPCA already has a network of water monitor volunteers, and it wasn't expensive to train them on pine needle collection this summer.
I sampled right in this area.
The needles that Lindsay and others collected this summer are now on their way to a lab for testing, and researchers even have something to compare them to, thanks to the Bell Museum in St. Paul.
They have graciously given us access to their archive needles, which go back many decades prior to even the invention of PFAS.
The fact that they have decades of pine needles saved at a place is just phenomenal. Like the things we keep around.
Lindsay still worries about how much PFAS they'll find hanging around in those samples, but she's happy to help build some understanding.
Things aren't great, so let's take that knowledge that we have now and let's start doing things better so that we can leave a better world, a better environment for the next generation.
Well, developing right now, former Timberwolves star and current head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, Chauncey Billups, has been arrested in connection to a federal gambling-related investigation. Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier and former NBA player Damon Jones, who played for the Cleveland, was also arrested. So what's going on? Well, according to law enforcement, members and associates of organized crime groups are also among a few dozen people in 2 separate gambling-related investigations. I know, this one's complicated. Chauncey Billups played for the Wolves in the early 2000s, and he was actually coaching last night for Portland when they played the Wolves in the season opener for the team. Well, today, oil prices are rising sharply over concerns about global supply following the U.S. imposed sanctions on Russian oil. Overnight, oil prices rose by 3% across the globe. And this comes after the sanctions hit 2 oil giants, Rosneft and Lukoil, subsequently affecting almost 3 dozen subsidiaries of those 2 companies. Authorities say these measures are taken to try and end the war in Ukraine, but Russian officials have already called them counterproductive. The sanctions were announced shortly after President Trump called off his meeting with Russia's President Putin, saying that their many good conversations didn't lead to any results. Now, one of Russia's biggest markets, India, is expected to significantly cut its imports of Russian oil in efforts to comply with our U.S. sanctions. Also going on right now, the White House is undergoing a major change as officials say the entire East Wing is going to be demolished to build President Trump's new ballroom. That goes contrary to the president's promise earlier this summer to keep the current East Wing building untouched. Now, the National Trust for Historic Preservation is asking Trump to stop the renovation plans. Here's Alice Barr.
Total demolition within days. That's what two administration officials tell NBC News is now the fate of the historic East Wing of the White House to make way for President Trump's massive new ballroom.
It'll be one of the great ballrooms anywhere in the world. It's about $300 million.
That ballooning price tag up from $200 million, with the president saying he's covering the cost, along with private donors, among them Comcast, NBC's parent company. The East Wing teardown coming despite this earlier promise.
It won't interfere with the current building. It'll be near it, but not touching it.
Now, as the debris pile is growing, so is the backlash.
I just can't believe that the wrecking ball is taken to this iconic structure that symbolizes America and our strength and culture.
The president noting the East Wing, home base to first ladies for decades, has seen changes over the years.
It was never thought of as being much. It was a very small building.
Now, the National Trust for Historic Preservation warning administration officials the planned 90,000 square foot ballroom will overwhelm the White House itself at 55,000 square feet as Americans watch history under renovation. That Preservation Trust urging the administration to pause demolition until plans for the ballroom go through, quote, the legally required public review processes. The White House arguing it hasn't had to submit plans for review because only demolition has begun, not technically construction. A White House official adding all historical components have been preserved and stored. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
New today, Tropical Storm Melissa is now forecasted to become a hurricane, reaching strengths of Category 3 or more. The storm is currently moving through the Caribbean, but it's expected to hit hurricane status by Saturday. Right now, hurricane watch has been issued for parts of Haiti. Melissa would be the 2025 Atlantic season's 5th hurricane. Stay with us here on The Plus. More news and weather coming up after the break.